My name is Susan Rahman, and I'm a chartered accountant in practice, and I've been in practice for the last 30 years. I wanted to start actually by saying thank you. Thank you for coming to hear me talk. Every year at the beginning of the year, and this year on New Year's Day, I normally sit down and I look at my clients and I see what's happened over the last year. And I try to analyse why clients have come, why they've gone, and indeed why they're even staying with me. And then I thought, oh, this might be an interesting article for Accountex. And so here I am in front of you today because they accepted my article. And then yesterday I thought, oh my goodness, what if nobody turns up? What if I'm talking to an empty theatre, which is why I've got my 2 kids here and my husband at the back. So I wanted to start by saying thank you so much for coming to hear me speak. And I guess my job for the next 20 minutes is to try and make you stay and not leave. So I'll do my best. I thought I'd give you a little bit about my journey as to how I became an accountant in practice to why I'm here today at Accountex speaking to you. I graduated in physiology and biochemistry, and when I was trying to decide what kind of job to do, I wanted a job that was flexible. I knew I was going to have children. I knew I was going to get married. So, time was an issue for me. So I wanted to do a job that could be flexible. I also knew that I wanted to be my own boss. I'm quite bossy. I'm the eldest of 3, and I like to organize things and I like to organize people. And lastly, I wanted to earn a decent wage. I wanted to have a decent package. So following in the footsteps of my father, I thought being an accountant in practice was actually the most logical step for me. Can you hear me? So I actually started training in a small to medium-sized firm called Aaron Berlin Gardner, and my partners were very much aware of my ambition to have my own practice. So like most accountants who start off, I had my full-time job. And I was moonlighting in the evenings and weekends in my back bedroom in Collier's Wood until I got to the magic number of 30 clients, £2,500 a month and a £50 mortgage. I absolutely loved being in business and working for myself. I love being an accountant. In fact, I love being at Accountex because it's the only place you can be where nobody's going to go, oh, you're an accountant, boring. Even to this day, 30 years later, I find it quite insulting that people think of bookkeepers and accountants as boring. I mean, we are far from boring. I mean, we are far from grey. We're always having to move. We're always having to change. We're always having to innovate. We're having to keep up with the times. I mean, my children are going to cringe now, but I always say that I am the Madonna of the accounting world because like Madonna, I have to stay current. I have to stay up to date. I mean, when I started in practice, I was doing tax returns by paper. And many of you may know, but I was actually doing tax on the preceding year basis. Then in 1997, we had to start doing our taxes on the current year basis and actually start doing them online. A few years after that, payroll came on tax line, and if you didn't stay up to date and if you didn't stay current, your clients would lose, I think it was an incentive of £865 if they submitted their tax payroll online. A few years after that, we had VAT online, and now, until recently, we've got Making Tax Digital, which they've said they've scrapped it, but we all know it's just been postponed. So we accountants have to stay up to date. We have to be current, we have to be innovative, we have to think of new things to do all the time, just like Madonna, because if we don't, we're going to lose our clients. Now, being in business, my main preoccupation is how do I keep my clients with me? What do I do to make them stay? Now, in the early days, my retention rate was about 50%. And then I started to really analyze, what is it that I'm doing that's making them go? And I thought, well, okay, I need to provide a good service. I need to do things on time. I need to do it when they want me to do it. And I'd kind of got that right. And I'd got my retention rate up to about 70%. So you can imagine my surprise when one of my clients who, had been with me for about 3 or 4 years, she called me up and she said, "Susan, I've got some bad news." And I thought perhaps she'd got a massive tax bill that I wasn't aware of. She said to me, "Susan, I love your team. I love you. You do everything right. But you just don't love me enough." And I was like, "What? Sorry, Debbie, what did you say?" She said, "No, you do everything that you're supposed to do, but I just don't feel loved enough by your team." And I was like, even to this day, I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean when a client says to you they don't love you enough? I turned into a bit of a Glenn Close. When any client leaves, I really do turn into a bunny boiler, and I stalk them, and I really try to find out what is it that I have done that has made them left. And I thought about what Debbie had said, and I thought, well, in the real world, if my husband had said to me, "Sue, you know what? You don't love me enough," to me that would mean he was expecting something from me, and I didn't give it to him. So I started thinking about what Debbie meant, and I thought, actually, what Debbie meant was that I hadn't delighted her enough. I hadn't given her something more than what she was expecting. I did all the basics right, but I didn't wow her. I didn't excite her. And then I got really stroppy and thought, well, is that my job to be delighting her? And actually, I was really honest with myself, and the penny dropped, and I thought, yes, she does deserve to be delighted. And I tell you why. If you think about it, there's been a change. There's been a change in which the way the SME businesses behave. Most of us here, there's 5 million SME businesses in the UK, and most SME accountants look after those clients. But there is a shift in the way people are behaving. You can order something from Amazon. I ordered a dress on Sunday, and by Monday morning, I knew Linda was picking it out for me from the warehouse. I knew what time it was going to be on the truck, and I knew what time it was going to be delivered to my house on Monday. It was at 5:34, and they did what they said. Our clients are getting that kind of service when they order something tiny like a packet of batteries from Amazon. So of course, when they're getting a service that they're paying for, they expect that level of service from people like us. So yes, our clients are behaving like consumers. Now, there is no information about SME clients, but if you accept that your clients are consumers and that they've started to behave like consumers, then there is a wealth of information out there, and we can use that information to make our clients stop our clients from leaving and make them stay. If we accept, and do you accept that your clients are starting to demand more and more from you? Yeah? So if you accept that they've started to behave like consumers, then we have to manage those expectations. And as small practitioners, many of us 1-2 partners, less than 10 employees, do we have the resources to manage those expectations? Well, let me tell you, a client expects you, 66% of clients expects you to return their call or get in touch with them after any kind of communication. So that's phone call, email, or even snail mail, or even any kind of correspondence from the tax office. They expect you to speak back to them within 24 hours. 40% of clients expect us to return their communication within 1 hour. Now, do we have the resources to do that? Have we got the money? Have we got the money and the time to be able to respond back to our clients in such a short space of time? Because if we don't, that client will leave us. And what is the cost of that client leaving us? Well, it's the cost of us having to then go out and replace that client in, for example, going out to networking meetings, buying cups of coffee, giving that 1 hour obligatory service that we do to get a client on board. And even having to listen to their problems and give them a little bit of advice, a snippet of advice to reel them in. That, as a very, very conservative estimate, costs us about £400 every time we lose a client to replace that client. It'll come as no surprise to you that the 30 clients that I started with, I have now got none of them. How many of you have lost a client since you've started in practice? Yeah, oh good. So I'm not the only one then, yeah, me too. There was a survey done of 1,000 accountants and 1,000 of their clients that had left them, right? How long, when you sign on a client, do you expect that client to stay with you? Can I ask you? Exactly, why would they leave? I mean, that's the same as me. Why would they leave? It's like a marriage, right? But if 1 in 3 marriages end, how long would you expect that marriage with your client to last? 1 year? When you sign on somebody, do you expect them to leave after a year? I hope not. I mean, when accountants sign on a client, they expect that client to stay with them for 10 years. When the same clients were asked the same question, how long, on average, would you stay with your accountant? They said 5 years. Well, that's a massive gap. That's a 5-year gap. And if on average, you're earning £2,000 to £3,000 from that client, when over 5 years, that's £15,000 that you have got wrong. That's if you lose 1 client. If you lose 2 clients, that's £30,000. And 3 clients, well, that's £45,000. Now for me, after 10 years of being in practice, my take-home pay was only £3,000. So in 10 years, I'd only managed to increase my drawings by £5,000. And I started to really think, well, why is that? What am I doing wrong? Why are they leaving me? Why am I just replacing the clients that I've lost? Why am I not growing? So I started to analyse this in more and more depth. Clients were asked the reasons that they left. Out of 10 reasons, all of them were more consumer-based. Not enough face time. One that I was accused of was that, you know what? You know everything about me and my business. You know nothing about my kids. Right? Another one was that didn't phone out of the blue. Didn't bother to phone and just see how I'm doing. They know that I'm going through a difficult cash flow period. How comes you didn't bother to phone me and see what's going on? Another one was not enough face time, because obviously time is money. So if you want face time, you're going to have to pay for that. So a lot of clients said, you know what, there's not enough face time with my accountant. And then, you can all read. So it's all these kind of things that they were accusing the accountant of not doing. And what do you think the accountant said when the accountant was asked the same questions, why your client left? Does anybody want to share? You're brave enough to share. Come on, I'm doing it. I'm an accountant. Cost. Yeah, brilliant. Cost. Most accountants said it's the cost. Anybody else? Any other insights? So. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. They said that, yes, we'd made mistakes and that's why that client had left. They'd incurred penalties. They'd got it much cheaper somewhere else. They'd missed deadlines. All these reasons were the reasons that accountants gave. And you can see none of the two correlate with each other at all. That means that 1,000 accountants have no idea what 1,000 of their clients really want and really think. And the interesting thing about all of this, what didn't the client say? The client didn't complain about cost at all. Not at all. So your fees are not an issue, because if you're giving the service that the client wants, they don't mind paying for it. In fact, they will pay to stay. Yes? So fees, nobody complained about the fees at all. Now, after really analysing, and many tubs of ice cream later, and a few bunnies, I thought, right, what can I do to increase my client retention rate from 80% to 99%. In fact, I don't want to lose a single client. And that is my mantra in our practice. Our mantra is client delight. Delight your clients. Let's do more than what they expect us to do. Let's do over and above. Let's surprise them every now and again. Now, in the survey, those differences between what a client thinks and the reasons why a client left and why an accountant thinks a client left shows that we accountants are very focused on getting the job done. And of course, I mean, that's why we're here. That's what we've trained for. Get the job done, submit things on time, and move on. But the clients want to be served. They're very focused on the service. So the thing that we started doing in my practice is never miss a deadline, because if I miss deadlines, it makes me anxious. It makes my staff anxious. So the first thing is look after yourself. Look after your own mental well-being. So we put in place a tool to make sure that we never missed a deadline, not just of the basic services. So, I mean, your client expects you to do their tax on time. They expect you to deliver the accounts on time and give you, extra information on when your confirmation tax is due, when your VAT is due. Those are things that are expected from us. But what I was finding in my practice is I was trying to avoid missing all those ad hoc requests, things like Johnny's Bursa form needs to be filled in, or a rent reference, or a bank reference, or management accounts for a loan. So all those ad hoc services I used to record in what we called the Red Book, which was great. And I have one of my managers, and his job is to make sure that everything is fulfilled in that Red Book. But we had all my jobs that were the routine things that needed to get done, and then we had stuff in the Red Book, and they were in two separate places. And sometimes it's really hard to deploy the resources and put them in the same place and know how to manage your practice efficiently. So what we did was we took all those ad hoc services and put them in the same tool as where we did all the basic services. Because actually, as accountants, or I don't know if I'm alone in this, but the ad hoc services, I just get in and get out, or that's what I used to do. But then I realized that actually that is a golden nugget, because when people ask for things out of the blue, it gives us a lot of insights into what they're up to. So it feels a bit contrived, I know, and initially I felt a bit icky, I felt a bit false, but when somebody asked for a form to be filled up for their child because they're going to university, we'd record that information. We'd record it and write it down. And so next time I spoke to my client, I'd say, look, how's your kid doing at university? Did they get what they needed? Did they get the grades? It's a 30-second conversation. But actually, it makes the client feel like, oh, you know what? She's thinking about me. It's not difficult for me to remember that because it was in our ad hoc service planner. So we knew that. Somebody might be moving house because they want a rent reference. Just in your email, just send them a little, cut out picture of a house saying, hope you've had a good move. Is there anything we can do to help? So those are the kind of things that we started doing from the ad hoc services, really pulling out the extra information about the things that actually matter to your client. The other thing we started doing is using the numbers. Now this I'm sure most of you do, because this is just a no-brainer. We're doing the accounts, we're doing the VAT returns, we've got all the information there. We might not necessarily know what it means, but when we started going to meetings, when we started doing VAT returns, we started saying and writing little notes to say, you know what, your sales have gone up, or doing a line-by-line analysis or ratio analysis. A lot of the time, all I knew was that something had gone up or down, or the debtor days had gone up or down. I didn't really know how to correlate that to my client's business, but at least when I sat down and spoke to them, it gave me something more to talk about. It gave me a chance to give them insights into their business and make them understand what different numbers mean. That's a very easy win for us because we deal with numbers. We like numbers. That's why we're here. Another thing to do is actually to give perceived value, to give your client increased value without increasing the cost. Now, a very simple thing that we did was we changed software from one to another. And when we changed the software, we personalized the client's accounts, maybe by putting their logo on. Nothing extra in cost for us other than maybe stick their logo on, maybe just do a little history. You know, you've been in business 10 years, we've seen the profits go up and down. Perceived value. Another thing that we did is, you know, when the 5p bags came in and people had to pay, well, we started returning clients' papers in kind of bags that you're getting here now, and clients loved it. They just felt they were getting something a little bit extra without having to pay for anything more. So these are all the things that we started doing to what I call providing a super service for the client. But that's just one half. These are all the things that, as an accountant, I like to do because that made me feel comfortable. This is how I loved the clients that tiny little bit more. What I started doing is that, have any of you experienced this, that, you know, like a client will drop off papers and then very politely a few days later they'll sort of say, can I just ask you what's going on with my papers? You know, when am I going to get my tax return? Have you got everything? Well, we used to get loads of phone calls like that, people wanting updates, people wanting to know where we were in their job. And, you know, most of the time, we accountants, we know the deadline and we know when the job has to be done, but there's a little period in between that I call the service black hole, where there's a lack of communication and the client doesn't know what's going on and the client feels a little bit neglected. So what we started doing was that every time we touched a client, we had to send a message out, right? So every time a bag came in, a paper bag, we'd write to the client by email and say, "Dear Debbie, thank you so much for dropping off your papers. We're going to check through it and we'll let you know." Then when the clerk started the work, she would send Debbie an email just before she started saying, "Debbie, just to let you know, I've started your work and look out for any queries from me." So basically every step along the journey of completing their work, we took them with us. And that reduced my phone calls down from actually down to 50%. In fact, very rarely does our phones ring for anything other than proper advice and proper, what I call proper queries. The other thing I started doing is call sheets. So I have had all my clients on an Excel spreadsheet, as you know, the standard practice management tool for most of us. And my PA used to go through, and it was very, very contrived, I know. And she used to just mark off who I'd spoken to out of the blue with no prompting whatsoever. And I used to do that on a Friday afternoon, because on a Friday afternoon most people are winding down and they don't mind taking a call and actually quite like it. So very contrived, but that's what I used to do. And I used to make sure that I called each client at least once in 3 months. Greeting, we started sending little birthday messages. It's so easy to do. Just cut and paste a happy birthday image, send it to the client. Very, very happy. Sometimes we even used to do it for their children as well. And these are all the little golden nuggets of information that you can do to keep your client that little bit happy, a little bit more delighted, and feel that little bit more special and loved. How did I do it? Well, it was a very expensive process. It cost me. You know, I recognized, because the more data I started analyzing about my clients, I recognized that they felt that the service wasn't that little bit more. So I employed somebody to do these soft touch relationship tactics with me, and she cost me £16,000 a year. But, you know, that hurt my bottom line, because that person is not chargeable. Couldn't make her do anything else. She couldn't bill out. So that £16,000 just came straight off my bottom line. Now, I thought that the things that I was doing is not unique. I mean, I'm telling you stuff, I'm sure, you know, you all know it. I'm not telling you anything new. And I really did think, with the advent of cloud accounting and all the technology that is around, that it would come, because everything I've got here can easily be automated. technology's great. You can do all kinds of automation with this kind of stuff. So I waited. I waited and waited because I thought something would definitely come up on the market, and lots of different things did, but nothing really suited what I needed to do. So in the end, I had to build something for myself, and that's how I came to be founding Onco, because I couldn't get what I needed. I don't have all the answers, but everything in Onco, like for example, notifying the clients when their papers come, we just tick a box and a message goes out. It's just sending automatic messages and cards. Everything that I think that a client needs in order to be happy, in order to feel loved and delighted, I've tried to implement in my practice and into some kind of technology. I am an accountant in practice. I don't think I'll ever leave this profession. So I'm learning things every day, learning how to keep clients happy, how to make my practice more efficient, and all these things I've taken and tried to put it into some kind of automated process. I don't have all the answers, and everybody's practice is different, and everybody runs their practice differently. So I would love to hear from all of you, if not some of you, and come and see me at the stand to tell me if there's something that I haven't thought of, or something that's not here that we could automate and perhaps help keep our clients more happy, so that we can grow, retain, and get bigger. Thank you. Do any of you have any questions? I can sort of answer your questions from my perspective and other accountants that I've spoken to.
Sorry, so yeah. The person you employed for 16,000, what did they do again?
Sorry? So the lady that I employed, she's actually on our stand, her name's Erin, and her job was to keep in touch with the clients constantly, let them know what was going on with their work and their books, give me crib sheets on who I hadn't spoken to in 3 months, sending them out cards, just keeping them informed. And actually what I didn't mention was that she also used to provide a sheet of all the ad hoc services that we provided for our clients in the year, because, you know, just as if you don't ask, you don't get, if you don't show, the client doesn't know all the extra services that you're giving them. So she used to do a little summary of, Susan, we've done all their accounts, we've done their tax, but actually they asked for 10 things this year out of the blue. We responded within 24 hours to all of them. So that's the kind of thing we did. But actually, to your point, Nick, £16,000, I managed to reduce that down to £3,000 by using technology to do a lot of these services, to just automate things. So yeah.
Why do you think there is such a difference between the understanding as to why accountants think they can't retain clients for one reason when it's completely opposite?
Okay, so the question that I got is, why is it that accountants' perception of why clients leave and why clients leave, why is the perception so different? Well, I think the perception is different because our clients nowadays are behaving like consumers. You know, they're getting such a great service from everything else, like Amazon, like you order a dress online, you'll get it the next day, that they start behaving like consumers. Because, you know, if you don't give them that level of service, then they're just going to go down the road where somebody is going to give them that kind of service.
I'm not an accountant, but
yeah.
Why, across the accountancy sector, hasn't this been picked up? I've had 4 accountants in 4 years.
Oh, you've had 4 accountants in 4 years?
I called up my accountant 2 months ago to get my stuff. He told me he can't do it anymore. And if I had called him, I'd be late.
What can't you do anymore?
They've changed their business, and he hadn't actually thought to tell a lot of his clients. So is there something kind of deep ingrained?
Yeah, I think accountants aren't communicating enough. We don't communicate enough with our clients to let them know what's going on and what's happening, and that's why people feel abandoned. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.